It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists in Piercer talk about some of the more common questions that those that get tattooed and pierced may ask. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo in the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. Today we got the usual crew, the motley crew, the other crew, the crew, the kitchen crew, Are you guys short order cooks or chefs?
We are gourmet chefs.
Okay. There we go.
Definitely not the cleanup crew.
All right.
No.
And then for those that are new, to my right, basically your left, is Jimmy Two Cheeks St. John, tattoo artist.
You got to hit the applause button.
Oh.
That's good.
That's a good one, too.
That's funny.
I changed the order of them, and I don't remember what order I changed them
That's not
into.
funny.
I used to know.
Well, I moved them. Okay. Well, I know you're all enjoying this tremendously. It's got to be this one. All right, I give up.
At least you didn't say my name first before that.
Well, we'll get to that. So, tattoo artist at the Skin Kitchen. And then right here is the one and only Captain Jack Lowe of Skin Kitchen Tattoo, owner and tattoo artist. And I'm DaVo, owner and operator of the Axiom Body Piercing Studio in a pierce of the body.
I can vouch for that. He is DaVo.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not going to do that more. That's just annoying. Anyway, what we're going to talk about today is, what does your piercing or tattoo say about you?
Yeah. Something to kind of think about, or what they want it to mean.
Yeah.
And how they want to be perceived.
Yeah. So the latest thing that kind of popped up that applies to this is our friend David he's getting a piece, and the piece has like a rifle in it. That's a guy, and he's holding a rifle up.
Right.
And he was going to put it on his lower arm. And I mentioned to him, do you want a rifle on your forearm? Because he's like my age. He's a little older.
Yeah, he's a
like
year older than you.
50 or something.
He's like
close
a year
to
older.
50.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's a father, he's a grandfather, he's a business guy, he's in front of a lot of different types of people. And especially the climate that it feels like these days, like if you say the word gun or, you have a picture of one, you're, a bad guy.
Right.
So I I mentioned to him, you sure you want that right on your forearm? That's just beachfront property,
Yeah.
And it's visible all the time. And do you want people just meeting you or whatever to have that factored into their first impression? Right. Tattoos are one thing, especially if they're, flowers or, there's nothing that hardly, well, now these days probably someone will get offended, but there's very, it's just not abrasive at all.
Right.
For the most part, it's not what it was.
Right. So, I just mentioned to him, like, just think about that, if you, in business, you have to care what the other person thinks. It's all about representation and presentation and everything else. So you want to make a very good but vanilla impression.
Yeah, that first impression, absolutely.
You don't want to give them anything that you have to work past.
Right.
So anyway, I think he did decide that he was going to move it a little further up on his arm. That way it's a little easier visible when he wants it to be and not when he doesn't. Because someone could see him with a gun on his arm and think, oh, he's one of those crazy gun nuts or, whatever they've kind of got pre-built in their head. And for a lot of people, it doesn't matter. They kind of want to create that question or maybe put off that persona that they are somebody not to mess with or they're a bad guy. But I knew that's not what he was going for.
Right.
And even if it was, it's kind of my job to mention, just think about, you're going to have this gun on your arm forever now. Well, until you die.
Yeah.
So it does make a difference. And at least it clears my conscience too, because I did it.
Well, yeah.
So, but yeah, that was something I thought, if you're in that kind of arena, and I think a lot of people do, they keep them higher up, or they definitely ask their job if they want, if it's okay. But anyway, I thought that kind of fit the narrative here, and that's it.
Right on.
I think in part it's a distraction. Like in first impressions, you see somebody, you perceive something, they're trying to sell you or what have you, or what that relationship or interaction is going to be. And as humans, we're keen to look for things that don't match. It's part of our survival instinct. It's part of our lizard brain. And I think it distracts people from what you're perceiving or what you're trying to sell.
Yeah, like I said, you don't want to, and who knows, he could, get a huge contract from a person because he did have that rifle on his arm, and the person he's talking to is a big Second Amendment supporter, and that could help him, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So, like, that's why I said, you kind of want to make this vanilla, impression,
and that's part of the problem.
Professional impression
with visual arts is it all comes to how that person perceives
exactly.
Right, exactly.
And that's what I mean.
It's that rifle can mean everything from I used to hunt with my great grandfather, and he was my best friend.
Right.
Yeah.
I love him and I miss him, and that's what I associate with that person. Or it could be, I'm ready to go to the clock tower.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't. It all comes down to what that person thinks when they see it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm kind of thinking about it a bit, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have said that to someone I didn't know.
Well, yeah.
Because back in the day, if a younger person came in and they even wanted something small below their elbow, it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
People did not get tattooed below their elbow hardly at all, and especially a younger person. So I often had the convo like, "Hey, you sure you want it, down there?" And half the time or so, they'd go, "Yeah, you're kind of right. I'll move it."
Nowadays, it's totally changed.
But
they want to start off in our hands.
Exactly. So people on their 18th birthday will come in and set up an appointment for a sleeve.
Oh yeah,
it just happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just not a thing anymore. But because he was my friend, I think, and because I knew he's in front of a lot of different types of people. He's involved in a bunch of different business things. So because he was a friend, and because of maybe I knew he was in front of all these people that you don't want them to have, you don't want to fight any harder than you have to make them think you're a good person,
right?
I guess. And not that, I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm not saying that it's right that people would judge you on that, but it's just the fact.
Yeah,
it's just an ugly fact of human beings. It's how we stay alive. We have to go. Is it a threat, or is it a friend or foe? We have to use what we know that we can see to create at least, to judge how critical this is. Do I need to run away from it? Do I need to fight it? Do I need to eat it? Do I need to make friends with it? Kind of thing. So there's nothing you're going to do about that. Right. So, like I said, don't give him any other.
And not to get too much into and I don't want to get into the politics.
No, you don't.
It is we live in a very polarized society.
Yeah.
With zero tolerance for anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that a lot of times, you might get like this dagger that's on my arm. Yeah. To me, it doesn't represent killing anybody. It doesn't represent anything else. I like the design.
It's a neat image.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Somebody sees that out, oh wow, he carries a knife. That's automatically what they're going to think.
Maybe.
And they have no tolerance or idea that I carry a pocket knife, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stab you. Mm-hmm. Even if I carried a knife this big, it doesn't mean I'm going to stab you. But I think we're in this climate lately, tension that.
That it's even more of a could be more of a problem. Yeah, where 10 years ago or something, it wouldn't have been
courtesan.
Yeah,
we all talk about how, and we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, how that changed everything, and in a lot of ways it did. And that's
it did, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Of how people perceive things and so forth, and these events that happen that are random and tragic and awful, how it
contributes.
Puts fear into people's minds.
So in a professional setting, you might want to, you've got to balance out how much it's worth for you to
make
that environment stand up for something you like or believe in, and most of the time, you would not want to make it any harder for you to make a living.
Exactly.
Right.
And if it is very important to you that you do have and wear whatever you want for tattoos wherever you want, well, you can always be self-employed.
Yeah.
You know, you can work that's in a job that you don't have to interact professionally with people.
Right.
So, you know, it's all about the choices you want to make, but it is important, even though tattoos are now a part of our main culture, they're not a sub-culture thing at all anymore.
Nope.
You can barely see a commercial these days, no matter what it's for. It could be for laundry detergent, and 9 times out of 10, somewhere in there's someone with a tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's not uncommon to see a spokesperson for, a cell phone company or something like that has a sleeve or a very large tattoo, you know.
And it's partly because tattoos have become relatable because there's more people that know people that.
And like I was, and even though that's true, and, you know, there are still things that could be perceived in a way that would be detrimental to the, you know, goal you're trying to achieve with that person. So
Absolutely.
Let's talk about your web on your elbow.
Oh, yeah. I've had this for a long time, and I kind of, like, before I got it done, I did a lot of research on it, and this would have been back, I don't know, when's it?
Early 90s?
Early 90s. Way early 90s. And most of the information I got stated that it was an old traditional tattoo that usually signified being trapped. It didn't say anything about the number of years you did in prison or any of that other stuff. And also we did it's kind of a odd version of it from the standpoint of how it was performed or how it was executed. It's not your standard, like,
it's
dark,
negative, almost lined.
Yeah, it's not the dark and then shading,
right.
Dark and then shading.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had people come up to me time and time again, where'd you do time? Because, and I just watched a video that came up in my rotation on YouTube where the guy flat out said, oh, you know, if you have that tattoo, you got to be careful because it's going to mean you've been in prison. And it's like, no, I know at least 50, 60 punk rockers that have this tattoo ain't seen a day of jail.
Yeah.
It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has to do with the state of mind. And that ties into it.
Well, that goes also with all the new, you know, craze of social media and availability. Nobody's regulating what information is being put out and if it's fact-checked or it's true or correct or not. Any human being can take a platform and jump up and start screaming about something being bad, negative, or whatever they feel it is or represents. And then you got all these other people who want to jump on the bandwagon or just go along with it. And like, it's not, nobody ever stopped to think, well, is that true? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of, and I think it kind of makes people feel like they're in the know or they're kind of a cool person because they're like, oh, you know what that means?
Yeah.
No, I know what you heard from someone else that let you in on this secret that now when you look at it, you can go, ooh, they probably don't even know. Well, if they don't know, then how can it be all ooh? You know what I mean? And you didn't know at one point, so it's obviously not probably a big common knowledge thing.
Right.
You know, anybody can put any kind of meaning behind stuff. That's what we do as human beings. We love to put meaning to stuff.
Everything.
You know, why does a woman a lot of times keep one rose out of a bouquet of flowers? You know, and you know, it means something. You know, she puts all that into that.
It's a symbol of that.
Yeah, it's a symbol. It's that symbol. So, you know, if you got that web because your Uncle Tommy had it and you had a great time with Uncle Tommy, no one's going to know that. It's your personal meaning on it.
Right.
You know, I guess it would be another thing if you had, you know, Crips and Bloods or something written on, you know, I mean.
That comes up to the other part of it is he went into Russian gangster tattoos and street gangs. Yeah. The thing about those tattoos is originally they were a secret code that no one was supposed to know about.
Right.
These are secret, very isolated communities.
Yeah, it's for the internet and all this other
subcultures,
stuff.
etc. Like, you know, the Latin King's crown, that kind of stuff.
Yakuza.
Yes, exactly. That's not, you know, common knowledge. That isn't mainstream. You're not going to run into these people on a regular basis.
No.
I don't know the last time I ran into anybody that was in, I don't know, the Russian mob. I'd probably never in my entire lifetime. And if I did, I had absolutely no idea.
That traffic has really died down as of late.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not something, unless you're specifically in that, I guess a nice way of putting it, lifestyle, you're not going to come across those people.
Right. So there's always going to be someone who looks at something and has some sort of meaning that they heard it meant, and they hold on to that because they feel like they're in the know. You know, they know something that a lot of people might not. So of course they're not going to not believe that. They're going to, you know,
And as silly as that could get would be, there are gangs. They're not really gangs. They're more kind of like clubs, but they pretend they're gangs that designate turf that they own at Disneyland, and they all have their own symbol. So if you get like a Mickey Mouse doing with some certain thing that you see on the internet, and you go to Disneyland, you know, you may possibly get beat up because you're in the wrong land. You went to Frontierland instead of Future World. You know, it's
what I see is like a bunch of dads.
Yeah,
like that's the gangs or dads.
Exactly.
You know, and like wearing kind of collared and buttoned shirts and slacks and stuff, and like but they're acting like total thugs, but look just as crackery vanilla as you could.
They wear vest colors the whole 9 yards. It's silly. I watched the whole video, and the thing about it is the whole time I'm watching it,
and Disney allows this to go on and goes, but you can't wear a shirt that has a obscene word on it, or you went to a festival that they don't
do that
appreciate
stuff anymore.
Oh,
like they used
to. They're not as
like
PC as they used to be.
I knew punk rockers that they would have to, if they had like a mohawk, they had to wear a hat the whole time they were in there. If they had a punk like leather jacket, they'd have to turn it inside out. Same thing with offensive T-shirts. My kid was running around with like U.S. bombs T-shirts on and all kinds of stuff the last time we were down there, and nobody ever said
they've
anything.
given up.
Yeah. It's partly because the culture's changed.
Right.
But yeah, they full on. When I watched the video, and if you look on YouTube, you can probably find it. You know, Disneyland gangs. I thought it was being punked.
This is a real thing.
Dude.
Yeah, and it's like a real thing, I guess, because I've talked to a couple other people that are like, yeah, that really happened.
That would be the most expensive gang to be in.
I know, because those annual passes aren't cheap.
No.
Right? Like,
and when do you have time to spend all day over there patrolling your, Dumbo land?
I mean, and think of the money you're going to spend on sunscreen.
Exactly.
I mean, that's got to be in close to the $50, $60 a month category. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's got that kind of cheddar, but I don't.
And it's like I often say, and I go through this with piercings, because there's always this fear when people come in to get piercings. They're usually done on one side or the other, with like the nostril, earlobes, etc. It's like unless you specifically hang out in the subcultures that pay attention to that nonsense,
it doesn't matter.
Why you're going to already know what the right side is. Otherwise, you would be not getting it on that side. And on top of that, do you really hang out with that? Because usually it's weird sexual subcultures.
Yeah.
Or not weird. I should not use the word. Very extreme is a better way of putting it.
Right. You would have to care about that group and what they thought. And if you're going to let whatever group it is with however many people, 2 people or 2 million people, if you're going to let them dictate what you do, okay.
Yeah.
If that really matters to you and you're just going to stick with, a rose, which that probably means something somewhere, you know what I mean? So,
it's like a good example of this is like bandanas. Like I've always had, I was raised to always have a handkerchief. It was one of the things my father taught me. And I like bandanas because they're cheap and they get stained. They don't look so bad as white ones do, I guess is the easiest way of putting it. Yeah. And I have a bad habit of not folding them back up and putting them completely in the pocket. And I used to have a studio that was right next to the largest gay bar in Iowa and one of the oldest. And I would constantly, like on different days, I would get compliments from these guys on my bandana. And it took me years to find out, until the internet came about, that each one of those, the color, what pockets it's in, all this other stuff meant that you were looking for certain things.
Yep.
And I had no idea. Then there's the other end of it, like, are you crypt or blood? No, nobody who's actually in those organizations is going to pay attention to some middle-aged white guy walking around with a bandana out of his pocket. And the same thing I think is with tattoos and piercings.
Yeah, it's I guess you could maybe stumble into something that could get you hurt or in trouble. But
Possibly.
man, if you're getting a straight up, gang logo on you knowingly,
Well, yeah,
then it's gonna probably mess you up somewhere if you run into the wrong people. But really, who freaking cares?
Exactly.
I've always said, I don't get a tattoo
for anybody else.
Right. So if I like it, I'll get it. I don't care if it's the most common played out image. If I like it and I want it as a tattoo, I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
I don't, like people will, a lot of times you'll hear, well, I just want something original. I want something that nobody else has. And I'm like, well, I understand what you're saying. We don't want just a rehash thing. But I go, even if you're the only one, you're not. You're the first, if anything. Mm-hmm. Because once we do it,
somebody else going to want it.
Everybody else could do it.
Yeah.
So why put so much energy and struggle on, getting that one that no one else has?
And
because it's going to be anyway. They're done by hand.
Right.
I can't do two of them identical.
Not exactly
if
the
I
same,
wanted
nope.
to, but
that's why whenever anybody asks me, do you do custom piercings? And I'm like, every single one of them's custom.
Yeah.
I can't do that same piercing on a different person.
Right.
I can't do sometimes the same ear piercing on both ears.
It has
on the
to be
same
custom
person.
because everybody is different.
Right. Well, everybody
Yeah.
now gets, for majority, especially in this shop, custom, original pieces.
Yeah.
Well, do you ever freehand? I'm like, everything I tattoo on you, I had to freehand draw at some point, whether it be on a piece of paper or an iPad or on you directly.
Yeah.
I had to draw it. There's no machine that I go, I want a guy standing on a mountain holding a rifle with his dog beside him. Okay, that's what I wanted. All right, now I'll turn this little line drawing into something like it just doesn't work that way. It's not
Jimmy
possible.
St. John's magical tattoo stencil
I
machine.
don't know what people
It's just
think.
a black
but,
box. He just talks into it and the stuff comes out.
because it's already drawn and ready to stencil because you're ready for your appointment when they get there and you've already had a consult.
Yeah.
We've talked about your ID and all this. Oh, you don't freehand it? Well, I mean, do you know how long it took me to freehand this drawing on a piece of paper or on a tablet to make it into what it is?
Yeah,
hours and hours and hours. Like, do you want me to sit here for 4 days drawing on you before we're ready to tattoo it and then tattoo it? Like,
people do think are impressed or do like the idea of you just drawing it right on. It's like, wow, that it is kind of impressive to some people like that in that manner, and sometimes it's applicable. Sometimes
Right,
that's the best
sometimes
way
it is,
to do it, but a lot of times it's not. So
Right.
it's going to give you a better result and a better tattoo and a quicker result to stencil it.
yeah.
And
so
this is an interesting question for me anyway. Do you think that whole freehand thing started with the whole tribal movement?
No, I think it started out of necessity back when people traveled and tattooed, and there was no stencils, there was no flash yet.
But I
They
mean,
had to draw it on you.
the first time I remember ever seeing a lot of people drawing on people and then tattooing like freehand,
Mm-hmm.
it was always large tribal pieces or something that was floating.
Well, I mean, I've seen dragons
do you
and koi
mean
fish
the-
and flowers and everything drawn on people and done.
do you mean the social reaction to it?
No. What I'm talking about is like when Neo Tribal came in.
Yeah.
And you were doing more of these like flowing type of tattoos of tribal. That's the first time I can remember like not seeing somebody like, I drew all this up. Now I'm going to make a stencil and put it on, where they literally just went.
Well, something like tribal, it doesn't really translate well to stencil it.
Yeah.
I find it's better to draw it.
If it's a bigger piece,
You want to draw it on.
So do you think that's where that myth started, that somehow that was better?
No, I just think a lot of a person that isn't artistic at all and can't draw are impressed to some degree just to see art created on paper or whatever. Mm-hmm. But to them, the scribbles and the really rudimentary lines and sketches, they don't really see it, right? So they see their arm with all these scribbles and scratches on it, and they're like, yeah, I trust you, man, go for it. And you can turn all that scribble scratch stuff that they're seeing into a beautiful tattoo, and they're like, it's just a better show.
Yeah, I can get that.
They're not thinking, well, it's going to be a better result, or that's just that's the right way to do it. They just kind of want that extra wow,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And I've had people come in and brag. I've encountered people that have bragged over the years, like, oh yeah, so and so did this. I completely freehanded it. Like,
Yeah.
that was something.
Yeah, they didn't
special,
even
and
draw
I'm
on
like-
me at all. They just started and did
I'm
it.
like, yeah. Well, reality is they used an ink pen or something to draw that stuff
Right.
up in beforehand.
Well, anybody that comes in and says they didn't draw anything on me at first, they just tattooed it. You're like, it usually looks like it too.
Yeah,
Usually.
it looks like crap.
Yeah.
Usually, 'cause
Yeah,
it's
it
not
can be
plain
But back
down.
in the day, yeah, that's how a lot of the old timers did it. Like Stoney, you wanted a rose. He didn't draw or put anything on you. He would just start tattooing, and he would tattoo a rose and build it just like he drew it.
Yeah.
Just like it looked on his Flash when Flash finally came out.
Yep.
And that was some pretty amazing stuff. But like, I wouldn't.
But at the end of the day, it's what that artist can do to give you the best tattoo.
yeah,
right,
which
you
is
know.
the main goal.
Some only stencil, some only freehand. That's fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's
both,
going to
but-
do what they're comfortable with and what they feel gives them the best, result. But yeah, it is kind of a weird thing and a bit off topic, but it's
know.
kind
I was
of, no,
just-
it's an interesting conversation, I think. Well, at least for me. Screw you guys.
Maybe for a few of you out there. Another thing is the perception that the design is. I mean, our last one we did, I was talking about Taz and how
Yeah.
there is this snobbery associated to certain symbols, and I went through a lot of that at first when I first started getting tattooed on my arm because I was doing a lot of old school Americana style stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just associated that with like, oh, that's that crappy Flash. We have one of those in the back corner that has all that Sailor Jerry garbage on it. You should be getting this castle and this dragon and all this. To me, that didn't seem appealing or associate to my life. So, but there is people out there that look at it and go, oh, those are just cheeseball tattoos,
Yeah.
and that's a cheeseball subject. And it's like,
It's just personal preference,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's stupid.
Again, it's how much you give a crap about
Right.
what people think.
Yeah.
To a degree, yeah, you don't want to get a symbol that's, that's been driven into the world's head as being a very negative thing, unless that's what you're going for.
Right.
If you want that negative attention or you want to start that conversation or evoke that feeling in someone else,
Yeah, help
then go
yourself.
for it. But,
Plan on the backlash that comes with it.
Yeah, just give it some thought.
you're going to pay a price, so again, like if you're a younger person and you want, a full sleeve down to your knuckles and you don't really have a lot of direction or really know where you're going to make a living. Okay. But no, this is going to take a few of the choices more than likely off of the table.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to pay that price, okay.
That's cool.
But if you're that same note, you're going to be put in a different slot in people's brain. You're going to be outwardly in a different position. These are all these costs that you have to pay to do that. And if it's worth that cost, then go for it.
Right.
But if it's not, think ahead a little
about
bit and maybe. Maybe I don't want, fuck the cops across the top of my hand right
Especially
now.
if you drive fast and take chances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Not the best idea.
And I think that everybody, because one of the number one comment arguments I get, and it just seems like it never ends because that video keeps coming up in people's streams, which is great. We love it that you're watching, is the hand tattoo one. And
Yeah.
and it's comment after comment after comment after comment after comment after comment saying, oh, I have a $40 million job and I work in a profession and everything else.
Yeah.
What I've always tried to say is we're not saying that's going to totally eliminate your ability
Yeah.
to be employed.
No, not at all.
It's going to narrow it.
yeah, and maybe
it could.
And I think a good example that would be is like, yeah, if you have a tattoo sleeve, you might make state senator. Maybe. You might get on the city council. But you're probably not going to get to Congress, and you're definitely not going to get into the presidency or the cabinet.
And-
At least not yet. Maybe in about 20, 30 years, that's possible. But
Yeah, not that it couldn't happen, but like,
It's
you are
less
taking
likely,
a chance.
maybe,
Yeah, you're
you
taking
know?
a chance of it influencing or affecting your path.
long-term life.
And
Yeah.
I understand, and the only reason it's gotten as accepted as it is because people say so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
Why not?
And so I hear a lot of
Yeah.
people right now saying like, F the man. I'm gonna get, and that, like I said, and that's why nobody stares at me anymore.
I know.
But at the same time, I don't know. Maybe we're just being old guys. But yeah, I started thinking about it, like I was saying earlier. Like, you know, you'll see spokespeople and everything that have large coverage now, and it's just very. So I could see for a younger person, it would be kind of hard for them to believe that.
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, unless it gets to the point where that's considered the norm, and not being tattooed becomes a rebellious thing.
And it's getting there.
It's getting there.
That's what I mean. Like it's really.
It's what I call the Billy Zoom.
It probably is not reducing their options as much, but
As
it
it
really
used to.
depends on you. You know, if you've got dope ass skills at something, then your tattoos ain't gonna be nothing.
No.
Yeah.
But if you suck at like most stuff, then that's gonna knock you
Yeah.
down pretty good.
Giving
you
yourself
know?
another hurdle, man.
Yeah, kind
And
of.
my
But
father said something to the degree, and this was before I even got into piercing. He's like, and when I got my first forearm tattoo, he's like, well, you're just going to have to be better at what you do now.
exactly.
And I didn't understand that, but he'd lived with a forearm tattoo since like the early 50s.
Yeah.
And had dealt with people going, what is that? What do you have that? Is that, you know, and he'd go,
Yeah, and thank goodness over the years that, you know, the impression of that, and, you know, the stance of it, and as accepted as it is changed tremendously. Because in his time, you know, it was very, you know, that guy's got something on him. Mark, did you see that?
Yeah.
You know, and that's not really such a thing anymore, unless you really do some really like out there stuff. Like when I tattooed the side of my face, or you tattooed the side of my face, you know, I don't usually get stared at anymore because it's pretty common. But every once in a while, you go like to a Cracker Barrel where everybody's like 60 and up, and they're like
Yeah.
dropping their forks. Like, did you see that guy's face?
Right.
What did he do?
Yeah, I
So
guess
if-
that's a good point. You know, because talk about perception. You know, you just got your noggin.
I'm
tattooed.
sure if the three of us rolled into like the early bird special at the country buffet, there'd be some heads turned
Absolutely.
Maybe.
because that generation still isn't that heavily tattooed.
Right.
Their
Like,
kids are.
yeah.
But I guess, you know, where I'm coming from on that, one, I honestly, I just don't notice much. And
I don't
I
either.
don't pay, it doesn't, and I think it's because I'm not going to automatically assume it's because I'm tattooed.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just me thinking, oh, I know they're just because they're just thinking. No,
Well, the only
maybe
people that
they're
I
not.
notice it-
Maybe they look at me going, damn, I wonder what that guy's number is.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the only
You know,
reason
it
why I
could
bring
be-
it up and say it is because, like I said, the stuff that I've repeated, like, oh, look at that guy's face, like, that's the stuff that I hear when I'm walking by the tables.
Right,
and
of
stuff.
course,
You know what I
I'm-
mean? I'm not assuming that anybody glancing around the room is looking at me by any means of the imagination.
And usually I have a much more offensive T-shirt on if I'm not working. And that's usually, I think, what it... I guess growing up in the punk scene and being that way, that, you know, and getting to the point where that stuff nobody pays attention to either.
No.
But there are times, like and when I'm with people, they notice it. And I don't. I'm totally oblivious to it.
Yeah,
Because
that's a
I've
good
grown-
point.
I've
yeah.
lived with it my whole life. It's like, yeah,
Get used to it.
so what? Who cares? That guy's an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
With piercings, it's a little different, I think, still. And it really does follow the trends of what's popular at the time, especially facial piercings. Because if you would have had a septum piercing done even, I don't know, 5-10 years ago, you're going to get a lot more people looking at you and making little comments about your bowl ring and all that other nonsense. That's completely gone. But still to this day, some oral piercings that are right there in the face, people are offended by.
Yeah.
Big ears, stretched ears.
Yep.
It kind of became this kind of passe kind of thing that everybody had. Still to this day, you're going to get tons of comments if you go somewhere.
Yeah.
Like,
There's little
oh,
stigmas
yeah,
and
is it,
stuff.
you know, can you stick something through that? Can you hang irons off it? I've had all those stupid comments.
Already did. There's a piece of metal on it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's real. It goes, ain't going away. You know, it's like when people are like, how long are those tattoos real? It's like, well, yeah, they don't rub off. I've tried.
You're
But I
gonna
mean,
look when you're old. Awesome.
See, the trick is just look really unhappy and mean when you're in public.
I do that already.
and-
It doesn't
right.
seem to help.
Oh man, it works so good.
Everybody
for me.
has this impression, and they're probably right.
right. Me and Jesse got that down, bro.
So what was I talking about?
Facial piercings and the stigma still attached to them.
In oral piercings, some
piercings.
people
And
are
oral
offended
piercings.
by.
People, you just, you know, it's a perception that people have, and it will affect employment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And partly because most of the people that are getting those piercings done are usually under 25, so they're not the most employable people to begin with.
True.
So they're
Again,
gonna
it's
have
giving you a
service
hurdle,
jobs.
right? It's just another wall to have to climb over in a way.
Right.
And one of the things about facial piercings that nobody seems to ever talk about, and I need to start I try to forewarn people. scarring on them does not go away very easily, and it's usually very noticeable. Eyebrows, nostrils, not so much. Septum's not so much. But anything that's an oral piercing, there'll be that little crater there for pretty much the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's true. The 2 lip piercings that I had for ever that you did for me, they're very noticeable. Luckily, I grow fur over it if I wanted to, but still very there.
But if you're a dude, that's a possibility,
right?
If
exactly.
beards stay in fashion until it goes out of fashion, like it's eventually going to, like everything.
I don't wear it because it's fashionable.
I know, but you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot more guys running around out there with beards right now.
No,
it's worse than the 70s out there.
Yeah, men are much hairier
except
these days.
The
70s are back, ladies.
the porno stash hasn't come back though yet.
Oh yeah, it has.
Has it?
Mustaches got friggin' huge.
Well, they were doing the curly up, like
Yeah. So, well, they were doing all kinds. They just as ridiculous as it could look. That's what they were doing, and they've I think kind of died out. I mean, they're still probably big in the hipster.
They've settled
scene.
down a little bit, I think.
But
are there hipsters anymore though?
Yeah, yeah.
They've kind of been, but everything
they've
were
gotten
into
older.
is now so mainstream. It's worse than punk rock.
Yeah, it'd be really hard to be a hipster right now. Because
well, I mean, none of us go to hipster spots or hang out with them, so none of us would really know.
Well,
for
it's
sure.
funny because I've had people like call me a hipster, and I'm like, yeah, and it's like I've been dressing this way since I was a kid.
Since
so
before.
I don't. Yeah, it's like, and I'm used to that.
You know, you've run the gambit when you used to wear something as a kid that everybody made fun of you for, and now you wear as an adult, and they're like, "Oh, that's really cool. You're sitting in fashion."
I had that experience
know.
early on with Vans.
Really?
Because I got so much crap in junior high school for wearing those checkerboard
Oh yeah.
things, and then Pastimes of
that's
Ridgemont
true.
High came out.
Yeah.
And everybody and their brother was wearing those and OP shorts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
TNC surf shop shirts.
So
Had a lot of that.
I guess the bottom line is you do need to take into account maybe the symbolism occasionally and what it symbolizes, and you need to kind of think about and how you interact. I think it has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
If you come up and you have a bunch of facial piercings and a bunch of tattoos, and you look kind of rough, and you're a complete jerk to people, they're going to respond exactly the same way you put out, and then some.
Absolutely.
And this isn't saying that there's no way you're going to be successful or anything,
Absolutely
and
not.
don't get tattooed by any means. It's more, how much do you give a crap what other people think, and how much do you give a crap if you find out that now you're, in a certain gang because of that symbol, And
it might be a fun activity. They might have, bowling
it
nights
might
and
work
all
out
kinds of
great.
stuff.
Yeah.
You never know.
You might get like some member privileges or something.
I think their bennies are freaking top notch.
Yeah,
so.
and you could get some interesting conversations at least out of it. And
I want to join the
story.
Krispy Kreme club, man. I'm just kidding.
But yeah. But it was. But that being said, I think it's worth talking about, because, like I said, just when I mentioned it to my friend about the tattoo, it changed his mind.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't telling him don't do that.
Well, no, but
I was
you
just
just
giving
wanna
him
make sure-
perspective.
yeah.
Go, hey, just think of open up a bit, and I'm surprised how many people go, oh yeah.
Yeah, because they don't think about it.
Well,
'cause
and that's
it's
why we're
what
doing
they're
this.
doing.
Right.
Just to
Yeah.
make you aware that, hey, just in case you haven't thought of this, we're not trying to deter you, but just so
Absolutely.
you know.
Right.
I'd like you to be educated as best as I can educate you and as much as we can know before you make your decision.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep. And
And I do believe that there's some accountability to yourself, how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
By knowing how that you are perceived by other people.
And what's perfect is that little gal I did the thing on her neck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that haunted me for years and years and years and years and years and years. So basically what we're trying to do by saying something like that is really save us from that.
Yeah.
Like, go, man, I know I just ruined that person's life.
Yeah, I don't know my
like,
conscience.
Like the person that comes in and says, I want a 12 gauge, labret piercing.
Right.
And they have nothing else on their face.
Right.
Like I've talked to a couple of people over the years. I'm just like, you look perfectly fine the way you are. Are you sure you want this?
Mm-hmm.
Because I felt like it was going to distract from what.
And you have to do that because, you have to get down to the very root reason why you do it, because you enjoy it, because you respect it, because you want to further it,
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And at that point, if you are looking at this person's face and feel that isn't the right piercing or, whatever, what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah. You're the professional. It's your job to make them as aware or you know,
Right.
you're almost
But if you-
obligated as a professional to make them aware of as much.
If you were to
Questions,
not,
yeah.
if you were to not say that, then you wouldn't be doing it for the right reasons.
No.
I guess is what I'm.
You'd
Right.
be doing it for the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell
Absolutely.
you, I'm too honest to be rich. I've been told that.
Yeah, me
too many
too.
times.
I could go on about that. But
Yeah.
But
you know
anyway,
how it goes.
that's another episode. Stay tuned,
It's
kids.
another episode of how we barely make a living
and
Right.
love and love
and love every second of
day of it.
and still
Yep.
still get look forward to coming back in every day.
Yep.
All right. So before we close,
Before we close,
DaVo, what do your tattoos say about you?
what do my tattoos? We can hear her, but she's not on air, so I'll just say that Jess, I don't know, she's our engineer.
She's
so
our
to speak.
engineer.
Yes. Asked, what do my tattoos say about me? That I'm a very interesting person.
That was a pretty good answer. Sorry. I didn't-
Well, you
I've
didn't have to
lived-
go on and on about it,
Yeah,
Davo.
I've lived a very long life, and it's like I had a client the other day. She's like, and it's about the second or third time these ladies have been in. She's brought people in and stuff, and she's like, every time I come here, I learn something new that has nothing to do with body piercing, and I'm like, it's because I store up all those facts and then
Right.
spit them out all the time.
I'd kill on Jeopardy.
And it's like, yeah, that's it. And usually my tattoos have opened up a lot of like music, and piercing's the same way. Those desires, those interests have built relationships that I normally wouldn't have had, conversations I never would have had. And I knew that it was a commitment to alter myself when I did, which is the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, that I was going to be forever changed. And I knew how people would perceive me would be always changed.
Yeah.
So and that's what I think it says about me.
All right, Jack. What about
Jack, what about you?
Is it what I want my tattoos to say about me, or what I think?
you? No, what you want them to say about you.
What you want them to say?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I didn't get a tattoo for any other reason other than I wanted it. And the reason I wanted it wasn't because my dad had one or because my friends had one, because none of them did. The word tattoo was said out loud for probably the first time in my life when I was maybe a senior in high school or something. And the more I learned about it, the more I just had to have them. I just fell in love with them. And I really don't remember ever giving a crap what people thought. And if I did, that's not why I was getting them at all. So I did realize, that people were gonna perceive me maybe in a little different way, especially back then. But I didn't care. I wouldn't have been disappointed either way if someone was, wow, that's really cool, or wow, that looks stupid.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter to me. It wouldn't. Yeah, I don't really consider other people at
In
all.
your decisions? How selfish.
You mean there's other people besides me? I'm just kidding.
Like
Talk about this whole
the
world
general
spinning around.
public, they shouldn't give a crap what I'm thinking about them right now, because I don't give a crap what you're thinking about right now. It's not going to
Fair
change anything in my world.
Right.
So, it's been mostly positive, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten way more positivity and met people, had conversations with people, whether you like it or not sometimes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember a time really when I had someone kind of turn their nose up at me because of it, So it's been a positive thing, but even if it wasn't, I wouldn't care, because I love wearing my tattoos. Couldn't imagine if I didn't have them. I would feel
Naked.
I've actually had dreams
So
and
weird.
years that all of my tattoos went away.
Oh shit.
I
yeah,
had to get them all done again
right.
and
Yeah.
try to remember
Oh,
where they were
joy.
at and what they looked like. I mean, it was taxing. I woke
Yeah,
up from that in a cold sweat.
funny. Well, what do you think, Jimmy?
Mine scream out, that is not the guy I want to chaperone my children. He does not make good decisions, obviously.
Right.
Look at him.
Right. So it's basically to protect other people from you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a warning label, you know.
Or
if
to
you
get-
eat
or
these
to-
pills, they're going to mess you up.
Right.
Or to get you out of the possible responsibility of watching other people.
Like, dude,
you know.
why did you trust me? Look at me. It's
Yeah,
your
like,
fault.
I obviously don't make good decisions. You see what I did to myself? Like, you want me to be in charge of somebody else? Come on, bro.
That's a really, it's your warning label.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
a little
I
bit.
love that.
You know?
That really does fit you.
It does.
Discretion
Well, I
is
mean, you know.
needed.
Well, I ran the whole gambit, you know. I came up, I was in the military right off the bat. I left there, I went into construction. I went all the way up to one of the top echelons of like adult entertainment DJing. I ran my own companies. I did all kinds of stuff. And like a lot of those, through all that time, how people perceived you was very noticeable to me. And very, like, you know, it made a big deal. But like once I stopped being associated with all that, and like I always had tattoos. I got my first tattoo at 17 when I joined the Navy. I loved how they looked. I like decorating myself. I like decorating other things. I put stickers on stuff. I can't leave anything alone. You know, oh, this is the factory paint. No, it's got some other stuff on it too now. But like, you know, after walking away from like, I guess the normal world and society, so to speak, and being a tattooer and like living off of our society and how we do things, it was more of a like statement for me, like, hey, you know, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to show everybody that I'm going to do this forever. Like,
Yeah.
here you go. Now, unless I can tattoo, I can't even make the French fries at McDonald's because of how I look or whatever. So you know.
And it's kind of a commitment to yourself then at that
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. Like it's a dedication. Like I chose to do this. How serious are you? I'm this serious.
Right.
It's forever as long as I'm alive.
Yeah, and I can say that about my first forearm tattoo. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of had that conversation with myself.
Absolutely. Like there was a big decision. Like I had almost full sleeves before I did my hands,
Yeah.
and then like I did my face, and then I did my neck, and you know,
Yeah.
all that.
We won't talk
way
about
later.
places.
Right.
Yeah, that's for the
Anyway,
evening editions. You know,
That's
after
for
the kids go to
after
bed.
dark.
After dark.
That's
But yeah, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. I love the warning label analogy though. That's perfect.
Yeah, man. Like when you go to the zoo, like there's critters you can pet, and there's critters that you probably shouldn't pet, and you know they have a big double cage up around them, and like don't put your hands
they're
in
usually
here.
bright colors.
Yeah, the real bright colors and stand
Maybe
out and get
some
your
stripes.
attention.
So your tattoos say don't pet me.
Yeah, don't attempt to feed or pet the tattoo artist.
That's
yeah,
you know.
don't cut the
That's a good point. That's a good point. All right.
Keep your hands inside the ride at all times.
Like
Yeah.
you're in Safari World, you want to stay inside that ride.
I think more than anything else, it was my commitment to the subculture and the mystique and everything about tattoo and body piercing culture that attracted to me to it in the first
Yeah.
place.
Well, when we got into it, in my opinion, it was much more of a secret society little person.
Yeah.
Like it's a club.
It was
And
a
it's
sub.
there
it
wasn't
was
a lot
to
of-
a degree.
It
was
is,
sub.
you know, but it wasn't a lot of us, like even between tattooers or collectors, like there wasn't a whole lot of people involved in it.
Right.
So it was kind of like you're like, hey man, I'm in this secret club. Like, oh yeah,
Right.
really? And like, yeah, check this out. Oh man, check it out. I'm in
Yeah.
that club too.
Word. Yeah,
You
very
know?
true.
Kinda neat.
And that's what, and I missed that part of it.
Me too.
But I'm also excited that it's now a part of mainstream culture.
I'm equally as proud.
Yeah,
of that.
it's. I mean, to me, it almost had to be because have you seen how freaking awesome tattoos are?
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Have
we're
you-
walking.
you know what I mean?
timelines.
And I always
Yeah.
use the father, you know, the generational thing. It's like when I was first getting tattooed and I was first getting pierced and everything else that was going on in my life, I hoped that this was more acceptable, that I didn't have to deal with the things I had to deal with.
Right.
I hoped it would get to the point where I'd have to search out somebody to do stuff,
Right.
even though I lucked out with Sherry. And I wanted better for the next generation.
Well, yeah.
And now we're like a couple generations down, sort of. Maybe a generation and a half. And yes, it is a lot better. They
Yeah.
have a better life. And
Yeah,
I've always,
completely.
I had the same effect with punk rock, because like I'd have kids come up to me and go, so what do you think of Green Day, making it big and selling out? And it's like, you know what? I that's fabulous. There's going to be more people into something I like, and something I love, and something I enjoy, and something that's important to me.
Right.
And
as
if
long as they don't dilute it and destroy it, hey, welcome to the party, boys and girls.
and if it's as great as you know as you say they are, or people say they are, how could that music not become popular? If it's
Exactly.
good, wouldn't more people like it?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you're saying, oh man, they're just proving that punk rock that a lot of people like
Like
it,
it,
man.
and
That's
it's good.
messed up.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
like,
Right, yeah.
and because I think they love that kind of subculture, that makes me different than you.
Yeah.
And when things like that happen, it's proving the opposite.
Right.
So they,
it comes down to that zero tolerance.
Exactly.
We were talking about earlier.
right.
The neat thing about it now is we've been in it long enough to where if you look at your tattoos and the progression of things, you can really see a timeline of like, well, back when I started getting tattooed in 1992, it looked like this.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
in 2021, it looks like this. Like,
Well,
holy
anybody who
crap.
gets tattooed over any length of time, the fun part is, you can.
Right, but
see
like
that,
tattoo
you know?
artists a little more than a lot of collectors, even though there's some big collectors out there that have been around for a
Right.
long time, but like majority.
Right.
And
people
you
in
also
industry.
watch your artists grow. during that,
Absolutely.
too.
No, definitely.
Absolutely.
As they learn new techniques.
I
and
watch
things become
myself grow
available and et cetera.
When I tattoo on someone I tattooed 24 years ago or
Yeah,
something.
totally.
Like, man, seems like a lifetimes ago.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so wild. But anyway,
And the same
I think
thing
that
with
was a good
piercing.
one.
Things have advanced so much. It's so much easier than it used to be.
That's
you're
awesome.
telling me.
Well, I think we did this pretty well. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, do so. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every time
It's free.
we post something. Yeah, we're not going to charge you for this. We
It's-
charge the advertisers.
It's free to subscribe. It's a free subscription. It's a special we're running until all of us die.
There you go.
So get in on it while you can. We're
Time
fading
is limited.
fast. We're very, very old, and we don't take very good care of ourselves at all. So
And I think if we've made any point in this entire thing, it's like share this with other people you know that are interested in this type of stuff, because that's going to help us grow, and that just helps spread all of that tattoo and piercing love all over you.
Yeah.
It might be a little messy sometimes, but
Go
it's
out
well
and give it
worth
to your
it.
enemies. You're supposed to give it to your friends. Love them to death. Drive them nuts. You know, share everything you got with them.
And of course, comment if there's the ability to comment where you're listening or talking, or listening or watching, not talking. Well, I guess you can talk to us. We might not answer back though. Check out our merch store. Links in the description. Plenty of designs, plenty of wardrobe choices in plenty of different colors. And until next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we hope to see you for your body piercing and tattooing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Be nice to each other, guys.
call your mom.
Call her what?